fact is, we want to stimulate you to begin to move away. Like he's made a good narration of what Nigeria needs to do. We need to move away from colonialism, and sadly, up till now, we still have traces of that running.
Yeah.
I even read of a theory called information imperialism, a situation where something happens in New York, you get to hear it faster here than you will hear in New York what happened in Nigeria.
Yes.
It is a information flow imbalance. Okay.
Yes.
But then, we don't want to bother too much about that because let's look at it from a personal level. I was born into a family, grew up in that family. I got the much of education that was available. Some didn't get at all, some got a little bit, some got so much, depending on your father and the inclination he has or had. Now, but some turn out well, some don't turn out well. What factors can we attribute these results, so to say? Two. I'm sure you have brothers too.
Well,
I have brothers that when I line up with them, they don't think we're from the same parents.
Exactly. My elder brother is exactly like that.
Okay.
In comparison with me. I like to say that it's important that I make a conclusion of what I was saying so that I can now bring it down home.
Okay.
So notice that the defects of where you are coming from really are not the issue, but how you deal with those defects. That's exactly where I was going.
Okay.
So we've had nations who had defects as a result of the people who birthed them, who colonized them. Okay, but years have passed and they have not been able to do anything about. If anything, they have tripled or quadrupled the problems that came with those defects, as a matter of fact, and they keep putting the blame on the people from whom the defects came. But you see, as much as you cannot stop birds from flying around in the sky, if anyone perches on your head and builds a nest there, it's your fault.
Okay.
There is no argument around that whatsoever. Even the blind can see that it is your fault.
So it can fly around as much
Yes,
as it wants.
it can fly around as much as it wants to. So notice that for some of us who came from certain kind of families where there are, of course, everybody has his own story, right? Okay, so wherever you're coming from and you feel or you think that it's because of the defects of where you are coming from that you are where you are, you need to rethink in that light, because you see, without any controversies, every man is where he is by reason of the choices that he has made.
Okay.
Choices are keys to destiny. That you are where you are today because of the choices you made yesterday, and you're going to be where you will be tomorrow because of the choices you're making today.
The choices are key.
So choices are key. Now, because we have seen people who came from your kind of background, but there is no grounds of comparison between you and them today.
Okay.
So what did they do differently than you? I also need to mention something here. Along the line of that journey of destiny, things happen. Some things happen for some people that didn't happen for others. I'll never forget what Mark Zuckerberg said in his speech at the Harvard University that was on social media a few weeks ago. He made statements that really called my attention to our defects as Africans, especially in third world nations. Bereft of the enabling environment for us to thrive. I mean, things like that are still a problem here. Things like power. I mean, just before I came in here, I was doing some work, but before, as I unloaded to settle down, my friend here was laughing, and I said, well, this is part of the realities we have to live with in Africa. You carry your chargers around all over the place.
It's not funny.
Yes, if you don't want your devices, your battery to go flat and all that. So, but Mark Zuckerberg was saying that if he came from a family where he had to feed, where he had to send money home while he was in school, there most likely would never have been a Facebook. If he didn't know that he would still be fine if the idea of Facebook failed, he may never have tried. That the Facebook has become what it is today may not necessarily be because of genius or stroke of genius, not because it's smart or more intelligent necessarily than other people. That however we want to tell our success story, there's always that stroke of luck that we had somehow, and that's how we got to where we are. I listened to him over again in that speech, and I could see the pain, the defect that we are suffering in this part of the world. Unfortunately, a lot of motivational speakers who are shallow and do not, do not think deeply before they say certain things they say, carry on a certain unhealthy comparisons many times. Carry on certain unhealthy comparisons many times. Some like imagine comparing Nigeria with America. It doesn't make sense. It does not make any. There's no grounds for that comparison actually. I mean, all the indices just don't line up.
But as a nation, yes. But we have seen individuals that left here, got there. So enabling environment is key.
Yes.
Very key. So are we stuck?
Well, again, that's a matter of choice.
Okay.
That's a matter of choice because we have seen precedents. We have seen people who never traveled abroad, who have never been to the white man's land, who went through the same struggles we have been going through, and they rose to become global icons on the soil of Nigeria, such that by the time they were leaving Nigeria for the first time, they were leaving on a first-class ticket. They were leaving with, for some of them, they left with a green card already made.
That?
Good. Maybe we should make reference to one or two, personalities in order to drive the point home.
Okay.
By the time some of them were leaving, they didn't have to queue up, join the long queues in the embassy, to obtain a visa. In fact, if they wanted to move with their entire family, visas were going to be available to them, because right here they had done something that the world had come to reckon with. To the extent that even the Western powers were willing to open their gates for them to come in. And that's because of a very powerful principle I want to share at this point, which I learned from one of my mentors, Olakunle Shorian. He said that the strength of a material is in its universal appeal. It's in its global bearing, in its international weight. So if we say this is a microphone, for instance, we cannot afford to take this microphone to Abia State and it suddenly becomes a stick, a walking stick. We begin to wonder, was it actually a microphone before?
So there are universal principles.
Exactly. How did it move to a place and then it changed? If I say that I'm a millionaire in Naira, it means that if I move with my 10 million to the UK and suddenly it became something less than 100,000 pounds. It means I was never a millionaire. It was just the weakness of my environment that deceived me into thinking that I was a millionaire. Okay. So what it means is that whatever you are and whoever you are, you have to put that at the back of your mind, that the quality of what you have actually is not about how much the people around you appreciate it, but how much it can be appreciated on the global scene.
Okay.
Such that you have to move beyond passing the test of locality to passing the test of universality. Okay. So some people have created value or products here in Nigeria, and the value and product that they have created was so powerful that people from countries like Japan, from China, from the US have come to reckon with what they had made.
Somebody will ask you, person will never chop. You did talk of global appeal. No, but that's the awareness.
Yes.
That is to say, if people are applauding you, clapping for you, like you're doing fine, you should be thinking of how successful you are if rated globally.
Exactly, okay. Not against the backdrop of the prevalent circumstances in your locality.
Yes, I tell people each time people say, "Oh, you're doing so fine," I said, "As against what?" And while I appreciate the accolades, I want to ask myself, am I not looking like a one-eyed man in the land of the blind? Okay, so here I can see, but then what if you get to a place where you see, where there are people with 100 eyes, they can see farther than. So you begin to look like you can't see at all.
At all, exactly. There is this guy that gave a talk, a speech in TED Talk, and then he began to point to something like this: when international economists say that Africa is rising. In fact, the title of that speech of his was "Africa is not rising." So that he didn't mean to get anybody upset. He just wanted to make a few points. And then, for want of time, let me just mention one. For if we say that Africa is rising and it's making progress in terms of economically at a certain percentage, say 6.2 or thereabout, and you say Africa is rising, what's the bar for measurement in comparison with what? You see, because that is a snail pace progress in comparison with China, in comparison with Japan, these are countries, in comparison with Singapore, these are countries that were backward before, and before our very eyes, they have transited successfully.
Have you heard the message by Reverend Manning? You need to hear.
Black Bishop, right?
Yes.
Yes. I've heard the man was angry. He was mad.
Very angry. He says, when will Africa rise up and help other people? Okay, but basically what we're doing tonight is to stimulate the consciousness that you need to succeed. Yes, we've noted the fact that we are bedeviled by a whole lot of factors where we're coming from. But then it's time for us to begin to make the choices that move us in the direction of success. And if you've not started, this is the right time to start. Gone are the days when you think about just food, shelter, and maybe clothing. We've gone beyond that. If you have these ones, let's do something else. Let's begin to think. And we also call, in case you are close to government, I mean, the government does a whole lot of harm when they don't create the enabling environment.
Exactly.
And it can happen in Anambra, it can happen in Enugu, it can happen. What we just need is people who can see. And it's clear that you could be a politician and not be a leader.
Exactly.
The fact that, you run our policies, you churn our policies, doesn't make you a leader. A leader is someone who sees who is
visionary.
Who's visionary. You see where people should be going, and then you start going there.
So that they can follow you.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say that against the backdrop of that, explanation I gave, we have to begin to think not in terms of the quantities of our local environment, but how we can blend with the universal environment. And there are two things that are going, I want to mention, that are just amongst many other things for the average Nigerian. First of all, the advent of colonialism has given us a universal language. If you can speak English language, trust me, that is the number one factor that makes you a universal figure. It's just that when we mention the word universal, a lot of people shrink and feel, are you serious?
Yeah, what is the fact?
What can I offer?
No, English is, there are a lot of people who are bringing up a whole lot of African renaissance, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But you see, if you want to move fast and you want the world to hear you, you must master English.
Yeah.
It's not okay if you can't speak your own dialect.
Yeah.
So master your dialect, but then also this universal language has to be mastered.
Exactly.
So that the world can hear you. Over half of the world
speak English language. And then I'm writing a book titled The Universal Graduate. Yeah, because what I'm seeking to do in that book is to underscore what are the qualities of a universal graduate, because most of our graduates here are local graduates. They don't even come near when it comes to the measurement for a universal graduate. And the sad part is that we are all in the same labor market.
Universal graduate should get a job
anywhere. So what it means is that wherever you go, if you say that you are a graduate of accounting, if we measure you with the graduate of accounting from Harvard University, you are able to stand out.
That's a tall order.
Honestly speaking.
That's a tall order. And let's frighten someone a little bit. Now,